I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is that getting sponsored in 2026 is more possible than ever, even if you have a small following. Bad news is the way that you've been trying to do it, or the way that you're planning to do it, is probably completely wrong. But then again, I guess that's probably why you're here, and you've come to the right place. I've landed sponsorships myself, from local shops to Factory Ride with Polaris Industries, and I've helped hundreds of other athletes do the same. With that being said, let's get into the 3 things that actually get athletes with a small following sponsored, because it's not what most people think. So let's start with section 1, the sponsorship ladder. Here's where most athletes with small followings mess up before they even start. Sponsorship isn't a lottery ticket. It is a ladder. And most athletes don't get stuck because their following is small. They get stuck because they're trying to start at the top of the rung. And the truth is, brands don't pay for potential. Brands pay for proof. And once you understand that, the different types of sponsorships makes way more sense. First, we have discount sponsorship. It's the entry rung. The brand gives you better pricing so you can actually run their product consistently. And I know it sounds small, but it starts the relationship, it reduces your costs, and it gives you the thing that you need most early on, which is proof. Next, you have soft sponsorships, which is product support before cash. So it's parts, gear, credit, services. And this is the brand saying, we'll support you. Now show us how you can execute. And for athletes building an audience, this rung is perfect because it fuels your season while you stack content and credibility. Then you have commission-based sponsorship, which is based on performance. It's the codes, the links, the tracking. You get paid when you drive sales or leads, and brands love it because the risk is low. Athletes should love it too, because it's one of the cleanest ways that you can prove value without having huge numbers. And then it brings us to ambassador deals, which are usually just an official rep relationship with perks and expectations. But a quick side note on that, the term ambassador gets used wrong a lot. And traditionally, it was closer to a paid position with responsibilities, where today, ambassador programs are basically discount plus product support and sometimes commission, just packaged with a nicer title. And then you get into, of course, financial sponsorship. That's real cash, tied to deliverables and tied to outcomes. To be clear, it is possible to engage a brand you've never worked with before and land a financial deal right off the bat. That usually only happens when you're bringing proof from somewhere else. Maybe it's a content portfolio or sales results or a proven audience, a clear activation plan with tracking. If you've never had a sponsor before, you don't have testimonials, you don't have case studies, and you don't have a track record to really point at yet. And that's what makes cash a really tough sell for most brands. That's why, for most athletes, the ladder is the fastest path. You build proof, then you get paid. Here's the part that surprises most athletes. Discount sponsorships are actually one of the best places to start. Not because it's flashy, but because it's the easiest yes a brand can give you. And it gets you in the door, it reduces your costs, and it creates momentum. And more saved money usually means more seat time and more progress, and of course, better content. Most athletes overlook discount deals because it doesn't feel like a real sponsorship, but it's one of the fastest ways to start stacking credibility. And right beside discount deals is the other underrated row, which is soft sponsorships. I mean, this is where a lot of athletes mess up mentally. Product before cash, it's not a diss to you, just it's a stage, it's a rung. Brands start here because it's lower risk and it lets them test the only thing that matters long term, which is execution. And here's the problem most athletes run into once they finally hit that first rung. They treat landing the deal like it's the finish line. But the first deal is obviously not the finish line. It's the tryouts. And most athletes don't know how to ask for more because they don't know how to build proof of performance while the deal is running, and they don't have any way to track anything. They have no receipts of what they've produced. There's no results recap. So when it's time to expand the deal, the pitch turns into vibes instead of evidence. And then what happens is the athlete just never asks for more. They're just expecting the company to come to them and increase the deal. But let's face it, think about it with no emotion attached. Is any business really going to just start offering you more and more if you're producing great outcomes for them? Probably not. So it's up to you to then bring the results and bring the proof and then expand those deals. The athletes who win long-term deliver and collect these receipts the whole way. Maybe it's screenshots or tracked links or coded sales or story replies, DMs from followers, the clicks, the leads, the content performance, and a clean recap that they can actually send and deliver to a brand called pop reports, proof of performance. That is how you turn a discount deal into product support and product support into real money. What does the progression actually look like when it's done right? Start with discount, build that relationship, become a real user, move into soft support and build content proof and consistency, and then add in maybe commission-based deals to prove that you can drive sales, not just likes. Then you graduate into different hybrid deals. Maybe it's products plus cash, maybe some bonuses. And once the results are consistent, financial sponsorship becomes the natural next step, and it's not a desperate ask. And this is why trying to skip those rungs usually backfires. Skipping rungs makes you look like a risk. Cash asks with no proof, well, they get ignored. Or they force you to overpromise just to get the deal. And overpromising is how you burn a relationship fast. Small followings win by playing the long game. The best part is if you do it right, within your first year, there's no reason you can't build an audience of over 10,000 people, even if you're starting from scratch. Now you understand the ladder and where to start, but here's the thing. Brands don't just look at your follower count. They're evaluating you as a whole package, and most athletes have way more to offer than they realize. Which brings us to section 2, the self-audit. This is the part most athletes completely skip, and it's the reason they undervalue themselves. Before you ever reach out to a brand, you need to do a self-audit. And I know that sounds boring. It's the difference between looking like an athlete asking for freebies and showing up like a professional partner who actually understands what they need and why it makes sense. Because if you skip this step, you end up doing what most athletes do. You spray messages at random companies, you ask for random stuff, and you hope for something to stick. This is not a strategy, this is just straight up gambling. What is a self-audit and why does it matter? Well, a self-audit is where you get clear on 3 things: who you are, what you actually need, and what you can realistically offer. It forces you to stop guessing. And instead of reaching out with some vague generic pitch, you can say, here's my world, here's what I'm already spending money on, here's why my partnership in this category actually makes sense. And here's the next piece that makes or breaks sponsorships: alignment. The best sponsorships come from companies that fit who you already are, not who you're trying to pretend to be. When you try to change yourself to fit a brand, you become a walking ad, and it feels fake. It's harder to create content, and it's harder to stay consistent, and the brand can feel that too. And your audience, they feel like you're a sellout. When the brand fits you, everything gets easier. The content feels natural, the product shows up in your life without forcing it, and that's what makes the partnership believable, which is what makes it valuable. The quickest way to get alignment, and that's break down your season expenses. Not in your head, not a rough guess, like actually list it out. The gear, the parts, the equipment, the labor, the maintenance, the travel, hospitality, fuel to and from, entry fees if you race, even the little stuff that adds up way faster than people think. Because once you see your expenses on paper, you can instantly tell which sponsorships actually matter. A free hoodie isn't going to move the needle if your real costs are equipment, travel, and maintenance or entry fees. This is what allows us to create a really powerful program. And it stops you from chasing sponsors that don't change anything. And when you know your numbers, you can target sponsors with precision. You can actually prioritize categories that remove the biggest financial pressure points in your season. And from the brand side, it makes you look way more serious because you're not just asking for anything. You're asking for something specific that fits a real need. Once you've got your expenses and your identity clear, making a sponsor list gets way easier. Start with what you already buy. What do you already use? What do you already trust? Then add brands that your crew uses, or brands that your audience asks about, or the stuff that shows up in your DMs or your comments or your conversations at these events. That list is your natural alignment list. And those are the companies where a partnership feels obvious because you're not trying to force a fit. You're just turning to what's already real into a collaboration. And here's the last mindset shift that keeps athletes in the game long enough to win. The first goal is to cover your costs, not to get rich. Because when you can reduce the financial pressure, you can show up more, you can perform better, you can travel more when it matters, and make smarter decisions instead of just desperate ones. And that's how small following athletes play the long game. Cover your costs first, build the proof, build the consistency, then the bigger opportunities show up. And when you combine that with what you've learned in section 1, you'll stop chasing sponsorships like a dream and you'll start building it like a system. You know where to start on the ladder and you know who you are and what you actually need. Now you need to put it all together in a way that makes brands take you seriously. Let's dig into section 3, the media package. This is the difference between getting ignored and getting replies. Most athletes live at one or two extremes when they reach out to brands. Extreme number 1 is the straight up ask. Hey, can you sponsor me? No context, no what's in it for them, no reason the company should actually care. Or extreme number 2, a full wall of text with a 3-tier package, gold, silver, bronze, asking a company to pick a plan and commit on message 1 like it's a freaking vending machine. Both of those get nowhere for the same reason. They skip the actual process of a real partnership. Now, here's what works. The first message should be strategic and simple, just enough to get a reply and open the door. Then once a company responds and shows interest, one of the most common next questions is a version of, cool, so what do you have that's valuable to us? That's exactly why a media package is so powerful. Now, a media package, it's not a proposal, okay? It's not, here's what I'll do for you, and it's definitely not, here's how much I cost. A media package is your backup. It's a clean, professional overview of your full inventory as an athlete. It's your story, your audience, your assets that you have, and your credibility. So the company can understand what's possible and decide if it's worth taking a meeting. Brands don't want to commit to something custom in the first conversation. They want to understand who you are and whether you're worth building with. And that is exactly why having one changes everything. It instantly shifts the tone from random athlete in the inbox to professional partner with a real foundation. Now, most athletes don't have a media package. I mean, some think it's only for people with big followings, others are scared it has to be fancy, and some just don't know what to put into it. To a brand, when there's no media package, it usually signals one of two things. Either this athlete is not serious, or they're going to be high effort to work with because they're not prepared. Even if that's not true, that's what brands assume when they have nothing professional to look at. What should actually be in your media package, especially if you have a small following? First, just straight up who you are. A clean intro that shows your experience, your participation in your sport, and your mission or your vision of what you're building or building towards. Second is having audience insights. Not just a follower count, but a clear snapshot of like who the people are. What do they care about? What do they buy? And the types of athletes or fans that follow you. If you know your audience avatars, this is where they go. Third, you want to have some credibility. Any companies you currently work with, if any, short testimonials from active or past partnerships, if any, and anything that shows you're a safe bet to work with. Now, if you're starting completely fresh, you don't have those things, that's okay, but look for them as you get into your first deals. And then fourth, the simple path forward. Simply a clear way to contact you and build something custom that fits the company's goals and needs. And that's it. Now, notice what's missing in that. There's no pricing page. There's no, here's all the awesome things I could do for you, because the media package isn't a commitment tool. It's a meeting tool. Here's how you present your audience data in a way that creates leverage, even with small numbers. Follower count is the least interesting number in the conversation. A small audience can be extremely valuable if it's the right audience and they actually trust you. Instead of trying to look big, you focus on what actually creates leverage with a small following. Knowing your audience. Brands don't want to just sponsor athletes, they sponsor access to buyers. And if a company can look at your page and instantly tell, yep, that's our customer, then you're already ahead of 90% of the athletes, even with smaller numbers. And that's why your media package should include 1 to 3 audience avatars. An avatar, it's just a simple profile of the type of person who follows you the most. You know, what they're into or what they spend their money on or why they pay attention to your content. It's not supposed to be a full novel, okay? Just clear enough that a brand can read it and look at it and go, that is our market. For example, this is the weekend warrior who invests in gear and upgrades. This is the competitive racer who cares about performance and reliability. This is the family first enthusiast who wants safe, proven products and good information. Now, when you show that, you're not selling a follower count, you're selling alignment. Then, when it comes to proof in a general media package, just keep it clean and timeless. Include a few strong content samples that show your style and quality, or maybe a simple overview of your typical engagement metrics, and any past partner logos or short testimonials, again, if you have them. The goal isn't to prove every detail in the media package. The goal is to show who you reach, why that audience matters, and why it's worth jumping on a call to build something custom that fits the company's goals. A lot of athletes hear media package and assume that they need to hire a designer. And yeah, hiring designers can get expensive fast. Becoming a designer yourself is also a time suck. And that's why we built full templates and have AI design tools for our private students to whip up clean media packages, even custom proposals in under 30 minutes without trying to live in Canva for 3 days. Here's the final reason a media package matters. It makes you look more legit than athletes with bigger followings who don't have one. You start at the right rung on the ladder, you figure out what you actually bring to the table, and you present yourself like a professional. Most athletes will never do this. That's exactly why there's so much opportunity for the ones who do. If you want help putting this together, building your media package, running your self-audit, and actually landing your first sponsors, go grab a copy of the Modern Playbook for Sponsorship and Cash Flow on Amazon so you can get up to speed. And in there's a QR code where you can gain access to our private community of shredders and connect with me and my team to help you build everything you need the right way. Thanks for watching, stay deadly, and I'll see you inside of our private community.